Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. I can't even fathom having so much time on my hands that I go into an obviously busy store and mess with the cashiers like that. If I was your manager, I'd print her picture off the security tape and have a sign saying, "Receiptless return privilege revoked." But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. I did it for your own good. So I'm a cashier/receptionist at a store where we're selling pools and spas mainly, but also fitness apparel. This day started well, but it was an extremely busy day, went down as the busiest day ever recorded. We were understaffed in every department for various reasons, and everyone was basically trying their best by running around, but we were managing well and customers were quick but patient, so we're doing fine but insanely busy until this lady who wanted a refund on her purchase, I'll call her L for this story. L sets 2 pink dumbbells on the counter. I want to return these. Me, very well, I'll need the receipt of the purchase, please. L with a small smile, I don't have it. I feel a bit bad for the lady because she seems nice enough and I wouldn't have minded taking the time on a less busy day to go through our disastrous system and try and search for her receipt, but our politics are usually clear on returning without a receipt, and I just can't lose any time I'm not obligated in losing to find a receipt. Me, I'm very sorry, madam, without a receipt, I'm afraid that the return will not be possible. L, oh, it'll be possible. Her tone is still honey sweet, but the words make me tick. Still, smile is strong, and I shake my head apologetically. Me, madam, I don't have the receipt. I cannot find your purchase. I don't even know if you bought these here, and besides, it's against our L, very patiently, as if explaining to a child. Think of Umbridge and Harry Potter. I bought them here. I bought them with a heat pump 4 days ago. I do not have the receipt, but I'm sure you can figure something out. At that point, my coworker gives me a very pitiful look. She's slightly overwhelmed, and the line keeps getting longer. I need to get her out of my till so I can help her. Me, slightly firmer. Madam, our system does not work that way. Even if you had the amount and the date, I have to go through every single purchase made that day to find yours. I can't possibly. L, listen, honey, I went to different store a while ago, and the girl told me the same thing. In the end, she called her manager who did this in 3 clicks. So you can figure something out or call your superior and he'll do it for you. As if. The store manager's probably running like a headless chicken trying to rep in the sales department while giving a hand in the technical and chemical product section. He won't bother with tills, he barely knows how to turn on, and my direct superior is absent. At this point, my teeth are clenched together so tightly I just feel my jaw cramping. But I know she won't budge, so I give in. Arguing further would result in nothing, and I just want her gone. Politics be damned. My boss will understand. We regularly bend the rules for some customers, so I just take a deep breath. Me. All right, I'll try something, but I cannot guarantee anything. The lady just gives me a smirk, and I feel very much like punching her gut. As it gives out, she remembered the exact amount and date, and I managed to find the actual historic of the receipt. We keep a track of everything in our software because some contracts are in the 30 to 40K and we can't afford to lose any receipt even if it's under $10. I make the refund and I just want her gone because I'm frustrated at her attitude and I lost an incredible amount of time. But then once she has safely put her card back in her purse, she smiles at me as if I was her granddaughter that made her the proudest grandmother in the world, and instead of leaving like I just wanted her to, she leans on my counter. L, see? I knew you could do it. And then with horror and anger that makes my face pastry white, she pulls from her pocket the very receipt of the purchase she told me she didn't have, put it on the counter, and slides it over to me. I look back and forth between her and the receipt, and my jaw literally drops. L, if you really couldn't find the receipt, I would have pulled it out, but you were able. I did it for your own good, you know. At this point, I don't even know what to say. She leaves the receipt in front of me, turns around, and leaves with a small leap in her steps as if she had done her good deed of the day. I turn around to see if anyone had witnessed the same thing or if I was hallucinating the small sheet of crumpled paper in front of me. My coworker has turned around, the scanning gun held limply in her hand as she gives the door a slightly disbelieving look. And even the first few customers looked flabbergasted. I don't know why I was so angry and flustered. I just felt like she had done it on purpose. We were understaffed, stressed out, didn't even manage to take a 5-minute break to grab a bite, and this lady just comes in messing with me as if she was actually helping me out. I would have cried, but I didn't have the time, so I just pushed her small paper aside as a reminder to definitely tell the story to my boss, and started calling customers to my line again. My boss was probably as white as I was when I told him. He said that I should have kept her and fetch him, and he'd have wrung her neck out. And our second story. You want me to check if your new BS policies are legal? Sure. About 10 years ago, I had my first real job working in a fast food chain for minimum wage. It was a crappy job, but it was only to fill the gap between me dropping out of sixth form in February and starting my college course in September. After being there several months, the regional manager came over to visit and said about there being a few incidents regarding money missing from the tills that were never resolved. We're not exactly talking about the heist of the century here. It'd be a few pence or at most 5 pounds out, and this had only happened on a handful of occasions. Most were resolved to being mistaken orders on the tills or card receipts dropping behind the tills. Because of this, there was a new policy that they implemented where the staff members would each be personally responsible for their tills, meaning they required everybody to come in 15 minutes before their shift and stay 15 minutes after their shift to count the money in the tills. All this time was unpaid. We were also told if the tills were short, we had to pay it back out of our own pockets on the same day. No exceptions. Of course, if the tills were up, they'd just call that a win for them and pocket the extra cash. The staff always lose. Naturally, everybody was pissed about this except for one brown nose who said it was great that people have to take responsibility for their mistakes. I guess unpaid overtime will teach us a lesson, right? I'm usually very quiet and introverted, but I will absolutely speak out from something I truly believe in or protest against something I don't. I was first to speak out against these new policies and question their legalities, to which the area manager responded with something along the lines of, "Feel free to check their legality. I assure you that we aren't breaking any laws." So I did exactly that. Later that night, I went home and checked our laws, and unsurprisingly, everything they were enforcing was illegal here. The area manager is based in Ireland, which more than likely has different employment laws, but his ignorance to our different laws and situation was painfully obvious. I called up the equivalent of a union, they don't exist here either, and they confirmed that it was illegal and advised me not to adhere to the policies. Next shift comes around and I roll in at 11 a.m., my start time, and immediately the other staff start kicking off. I went upstairs, counted the float in the 15 minutes they expected it to take, then actually started working at 11:15. I explained myself to the rest of the staff and showed them evidence, and they all decided to follow suit. Everybody except for Brown Nose. She insisted that we all needed to do our part for the company, that pays us minimum wage, don't forget, and that we should be grateful for the jobs. Still minimum wage. None of us took that on board and left her to carry on working for free if that's her choice. I think she was expecting something from the boss for her dedication. The local manager was also on our side, but he did have to tell the regional manager what was happening. On the regional manager's next visit about a month later, he started having meetings with the staff to investigate what this was all about and why we weren't sticking to the policy, and they all pointed towards me telling them not to. When he got around to the meeting with me, he was pissed and started kicking off at me and asking why I was so determined to overrule him, to which I replied, "You told me to check the legalities of the policy, so I did," and showed him the evidence in the form of our local employment laws on my phone. Defeated, he left and decided to withdraw all the policies, including the ones where we had to waste time counting the floats and pay back any shortages. The rest of the staff there liked me for it, except from Brown Nose, but nobody liked her anyway. Good work. It's always good to make the boss look stupid and help out your coworkers at the same time. And our last story. Neighbor cut down 50 trees on my parents' property in the middle of the night. My parents woke up this morning and discovered that approximately 50 trees on their property had been cut down. Some of the smaller trees, 6 to 8 feet tall, had only the top half cut off, but the larger trees, 60 plus years old, had been completely cut down. The person who cut them down did their best to hide the damage by placing branches and rocks over the stumps and leaned some of the chopped down trees against other trees so it looked like they were still standing. It's quite obvious which neighbor had done it because the only trees cut down form an alley directly in front of one specific neighbor's home, in which they now have a very clear view of the mountains and lake. Their only view from their house previously was of the trees. The trees were cut down, block a semi-major road and bike path. The trees were a large noise and privacy barrier to both neighbors and road traffic. My parents had no idea what to do when they saw the trees, so I advised them to take photos to document, call the sheriff to report the damage, and contact an arborist to get a price in replacing the trees. The neighbors who we believe did it live in a shared outdoor space maintained by the HOA. The sheriff told my parents there wasn't anything he could do and it was only a misdemeanor property crime. They've also made an appointment with an arborist later this week. The replacement cost of the trees will almost certainly be very high. The sheriff probably doesn't understand how valuable trees actually are. This would be totally appropriate to take to a civil lawsuit, though they'll have to do some investigation to determine who to sue. They'll probably want to find an attorney willing to take it on and/or a private investigator who can figure out who performed the work. Whoever did the work will be the ones on the hook primarily, but it's clearly a trespass with damage to the property, and 50 trees are going to be worth a lot. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.